Welcome to the Tabletop Gaming Guild podcast, a podcast that's all about the memories and experiences that playing board games with friends and family can create. On this episode, we're going to be talking about murder and or mystery games. Basically our favorite ones, or maybe our favorite ones, or at least ones we want to talk about. But first, we're going to go ahead and talk about what we have played this last week. Nathan, would you like to start us off?
Sure. I've been in a dry spell, and I've finally broken my dry spell and gotten some physical board games to the table. I got two to the table recently. Both of them I've been really excited about. But first one I want to talk about is Dune Imperium Rise of Ix. So the expansion for Dune Imperium. This does a lot of new things for this game. So in this expansion, you get two new boards, like overlays. You get an overlay for one board and an extra little board for text. So you have, on the little overlay, there's basically a shipping action. And on the text, you have different little bonuses you can pay spice to get. You also get dreadnoughts, which are powerful armies that you can send in. But after the battle, they can be used to take control of regions and get little bonuses out of that regions. One of the big things for this game for me is it fixes my minor complaints about the base game. Now, this is nitpicky stuff, but I found in the base game, you could kind of get yourself in a rut where you don't buy the right kind of cards and you have a section of the board you can't really get to because you run out of those. You've kind of trashed those cards and you didn't buy any. But in this one, with this expansion, it actually gives you more options for specifically the green pentagram action. So that one section of the board, as well as the diamond, where those were some of the weaker ones first, depending on your strategy. And so you don't ever hit that point where, okay, I have an extra action, but based on the cards in my hand, there's not really anything I can do. I'm just going to go out early because I kind of have to. Now, given if you run into that problem, it's kind of your own fault, but it is a little frustrating when it happens.
Yeah, that one I got to play last week too. I really liked it a lot. The only thing you didn't mention that I liked in the game was the new mechanic where you can get the reveal benefit early, which is a discard or trash. If that happens on that card, it triggers the reveal benefit. The really cool thing about that is not only do you get that benefit early, but you can, if you have the ability to do it, discard the card and then trash it and get the ability twice in one turn. Now, you'd have to have something that gives you the ability to discard it and then something that gives you the ability to trash it, which does exist, but that is a really cool super bonus that you can get on a turn. And I'm all about trashing cards and thinning decks and making them hyper efficient. And they have a really cool new leader that helps with that too. You can cycle through them really quick with him.
Yeah, I had a comment based on that too. It's like, I don't know if I'm doing something wrong or it's just the way we're playing, but I played this game 4 times. Nobody's been able to do that yet.
That leader?
No, be able to discard or trash a card to trigger those powers. It's just the cards aren't coming up enough. And
see, I use the Bene Gesserit. I like you capitalizing on them early, and you have to have spice and stuff to do it, but that will get that going, but that's strictly trashing. But yeah, you have to pick up the cards to do it if you want to do it through the card mechanism, or that one leader will capitalize on it. I believe it lets you trash them, and then you get another low crossed card, and so you could do some stuff with that. But yeah, I could see where you might have like a dry spell of being able to capitalize on it too much.
It may have been just a luck of the draw because, each game, it just seems like only a couple of them come out, if like 1 or 2, maybe 3, but it might be just because of my shuffle.
It is a pretty big stack of cards you get. So.
It is.
What was the other game you played?
The other game I played is another one I've been itching to get. It's a Kickstarter. This finally arrived. Return to Dark Tower. This is by Restoration Games. It's an old game that they've redone. And this is a game, it's a cooperative game where you're going around a map trying to deal with different issues, such as, monsters coming out, corruption getting onto these buildings, and if you get too much corruption on these buildings, they'll get destroyed and you'll get negative effects. But one of the cool things about it is in the middle of the board, you have this tower. This tower does several things. 1, it connects to an app, and that app kind of controls the turns of the game. 2, at the end of your turn, you throw a little skull into this tower. It'll tell the app that your turn's over. It'll trigger events. The tower may rotate inside, revealing different symbols that affect the game, or the skulls might fall out of the tower and then you have to add it to the buildings in the region. So that's really cool. It does give you, through the app, it does give you a flexibility in the turns. So in every period of gameplay, I forget the term they use, but basically a month is what it is. Every month can go from anywhere from like 7 to 9 maybe 10 turns, but they average about 8 turns. So you don't know when the month end's going to be triggered, and you have certain quests you need to finish before that month ends, or that you lose out on fulfilling those quests, or the benefits, or the end up getting negative effects based on failing those quests. So that's kind of cool. It gives a little bit of tension of not knowing how much time you have. Another huge positive of this game is it's ridiculously variable. You start off by picking one of a number of scenarios. I think there's about 8. Then you pick out of a number of different level 2 monsters, level 3 monsters, level 4 monsters, and your big boss is a level 5 monster. And each of those very much change up the game, especially the number 5. So every time you get to play this game, it's going to be significantly different. The one downside of this game is it's a cooperative game, but there's going to be one side of the board where you can't see where you're sitting. So that can make it hard to teach if you're trying to teach the person on your opposite side and you can't see what their board state looks like, which, okay, it'd be easy enough for maybe their first turn, just put the tower aside, teach them the game, and then once you really get started, put the tower in the middle and then go. But that's Return to Dark Tower.
I also had an opportunity to play this game. I'm not sure exactly when, but I managed to play this game at the store with close friend and associate Krista, friend of the store, friend of the show, I'm assuming. And even though we only played it once, like the introductory scenario using the default boss that they suggested, I thought this was a extremely solid co-op game. And I thought the app integration was quite solid. It does the event draws. When you fight monsters, the monsters like reveal these cards to you, and you have an opportunity to like spend advantages to reduce the bad stuff that you have to pay. All the cards tell you to pay bad stuff more or less, but like you could spend these advantages to reduce the bad stuff that you're taking to defeat these monsters, or even make it good if you spend enough of them. But like the app takes care of all of this. So yeah, great app. I'll have to echo Nathan. Like the first thing we noticed when we were setting up the game is, wow, there's this giant black thing that has to be positioned in the center of the board for this game to function. That's a little awkward because I can't see the board's divided into 4 sections because it maxes out at 4 players and each player basically gets a section to start in. You don't really see the section that's on the exact opposite side of the board from you.
Yeah, I really need to play that game. But Dan, was there any other games you played last week?
My play of Dark Tower wasn't in the past week. It was just something that Nathan's comment triggered. In the past week or two, I've gotten a couple games to the table. Got Maracaibo back to the table. It's been a while since we played that game, but it's one of my favorites, and it still is. Me and my brother are still playing through the campaign. I think we're on chapter 8, but don't quote me. The expansion for Maracaibo recently released because a copy arrived at my store. I may or may not comment about that in the near future. The other game that we got to the table recently was Zulkin. Zulkin's been in my collection for a while now, but Zulkin is the Mayan calendar game. It's a worker placement game that uses time as a resource. On your turn, you can either place workers or pick workers up. When you place workers, they go on these fancy plastic gears, and after everyone's done with their turn, the gears rotate like one step, right? And then when you pick up workers, the resources and abilities that you execute become more powerful the longer they've sat on their spot on the gear as they've rotated throughout the turns. So very, very thinky worker placement game for sure.
Yeah, Tzolk'in is amazing. I love that game. So, Evan, what have you played last week?
So within the last week, I think the only game I got in there would have been probably Fitna, Global War in the Middle East. So I just did a review for that one. It's up on the channel now. But yeah, Fitna, put out by Nuts War Gaming. Real neat game, real large board. It covers pretty much all the major spots into the Middle East and covers a lot of the Middle Eastern conflict that's been happening over the last 25 years, Syrian Civil War, and so on with that. It captures all the major players in there, including some of the minor factions in there, and simulates everything that's going on over there really well. One thing that I mentioned with the review, from what I understand, France uses this to plan operations into the Middle East before they do it using this game. It looks really in-depth when you get a good surface overview of it. But once you go into the rules, it's a card-driven game, and the card mechanic is actually really, really simple. It can play anywhere from 2 to 5 people. I just played a game with myself, and I got through 3 turns within an hour. It moves really quickly. It was really fun. I enjoyed it a lot.
All right, so I have a little bit of a list, but I'm going to go through them real quickly because there's a couple of them I want to talk to Dan about specifically. So one of the games I got to play last week was called Spacers, a space adventure game. Now, this game is marketed as sort of like a sandbox style game that you get to take on the role of like a space pirate or a merchant or an explorer. It is a sandbox game. Is it a sandbox game on the level of Xia Legends of a Drift System? No. But is it a sandbox game that you can play in 60 minutes and get the feel of a sandbox game? Yes. The rules are really simple. The turns are very simple. You basically only trying to get to 7 fame, which is not all that hard to get to in that time frame. So it's a fast, lighter version. So there's a niche for that. It was fun. Would I play it over Xia of Legends of Drift System or games like that or Shiver Me Timbers? I'm not sure. But I know a lot of people will enjoy it. The other game that I really wanted to hate, I wanted to hate it so bad because it has everything I hate. And that is Breakneck Derby. It has poker cards. And you use poker cards to move horses on a racetrack. So all that screams, I don't like it. However, when I did actually play it, it was a pretty fun, solid race game. And the biggest thing that drives it is it has a mechanism where you have 5 slots. And on your turn, you can place, turns works in a special way. If you get to your turn, you're going to have horses that are yours. If someone plays a numbered card that matches one of your horses, which there's reasons they would have to do that, you get a turn and you get to play a card. Every time one of your horses gets to move, you get a turn, whether it was from an opponent or yourself, which is fine. And it actually doesn't matter if someone gets all 5 turns in a round, because the really cool thing in the game is once those 5 cards are full, you look for sets and runs and different things that you can create through your turns that'll give you bonuses for pushing horses forward. So there's a lot of thinking on, hey, I have cards to move my horse a lot, but I don't want to do that because I want to wait until I can create a bonus movement for my stuff, or I want to try to get it to me so that I can screw up other people's bonuses. That in its nutshell made the game. Now they have a second component to it, which is betting. Didn't like it. But the racing part, for a game that I had no faith that I would like, it was solid and I liked it. So that says a lot. Played Charterstone. Didn't change my thoughts on Charterstone. It's a fine entry-level Euro game that is family weight and I think made for mainly like intro board gamers or people new to the hobby. Still didn't change my opinion on it. Last one I played that before I mention ones that Dan will have comments on is Obsession. Obsession is a really good game. It is not nearly as complicated as it seems. It is actually a pretty straightforward game. Mechanically, it's a hand management game because your hand is all that matters in the game. The cards that you have in your hand drive the game forward. You will create an engine with the cards that you put down that will get you money, will increase your, it's not fame, but it's the same idea, reputation. And the person with the highest reputation at the end of the game wins. So it's all about the cards. It's all about creating, getting those gentry to your estate to increase your reputation, to get more money in so you can buy better tile cards in there so you can have better balls and better parties. It's basically Jane Austen in a board game. So if you like that stuff, like that Victorian era stuff, this is the game for you. So getting into the last games I played, which were all Tiny Epic games. There's 4 of them. Tiny Epic Quest, which I'm not going to say too much on. Tiny Epic Quest is basically Zelda in a board game. That is exactly what it is. You get the feel of Zelda in it. You're adventuring, you're going through the game, you're doing all these different things. It's Zelda. So that's fine. It's a great game. The next one's Tiny Epic Zombies, which is a 1 to 5 player game with 4 different modes. My favorite being where the group plays as the survivors and someone plays as the zombie player. I think that's the best one. I do like the cooperative one too. We actually have a playthrough of the cooperative one on our channel. Solid game. Lots of scenarios, lots of variability to the game, lots of replayability. Great game. So the 2 that I think Dan will have some comment on is the first is Tiny Epic Defenders. Tiny Epic Defenders is a cooperative game where you're going to try to basically Castle Panic style save your city. The base game of Tiny Epic Defenders is super easy. You can't lose it. Like, it's very hard to lose. You could. It's very hard to lose it. Most of the time you're going to comfortably win Tiny Epic Defenders, even screwing up. Now, where it makes it great is the expansion for Tiny Epic Defenders. The expansion for Tiny Epic Defenders, the Dark Wars, makes Tiny Epic Defenders amazing. And the reason it does is because it makes the game a lot harder. Now you have caravans that come out each turn, and you have to get them back to your capital city before you can take out the epic foe. So, and it also has other modes, like you can play a campaign-ish thing. It's not really a campaign, you're just fighting 2 sub-bosses and a real boss. But it's still really cool, and it has an XP thing where you can level up your character, get new skills. I really think that Tiny Epic Defenders is made awesome by the expansion, the Dark War. What do you think of that, Dan?
I can't comment on the Dark War regarding Tiny Epic Defenders because I've never played it with the Dark War, actually. I've only played the base game. I feel like the base game, I wouldn't call it easy, but it's a really good co-op experience. And I would feel comfortable introducing the base level complexity / difficulty to a group that doesn't have much experience with board games. Like it's almost like pandemic level. If you think it's too easy, you always have the option of making it harder too, because you can add more of those monster cards into the draw deck.
Yeah, they're called dire beasts or dire monsters, right? Yeah, and yeah, even with that, it was harder. I really need to play it with the Dark War with you and see what you think in the future. The last one I loved. I think so far it is my favorite Tiny Epic game, period. With the caveat that I have not played Tiny Epic Galaxy. Remember that. Tiny Epic Dinosaurs. I know Dan has a little beef with this game, but I loved it. Now, it's like Tiny Epic Dinosaur Agricola is basically what it is. And I love Agricola. Like, that is one of my favorite games ever created. It's always my 11 or 12, but it's still an amazing game. And Tiny Epic Dinosaurs gives me the feel of being a dinosaur rancher, but specifically that pressure to be able to feed those animals, to be able to ship them off, and doing that double, like you can't do a private objective without filling out a public objective, and it's hard to do that. Your area is full. You have to push your luck a little bit to be able to do both objectives because you have a lot of stuff to feed before you're able to do it. So what was your thoughts on Tiny Epic Dinosaurs there, Dan?
Well, I did at one point have Tiny Epic Dinosaurs in my collection. It is no longer there for full reference. I eventually got rid of this game. The reason why we decided to get rid of it was multifaceted, really. We did not like the resource pressure that the game puts on you. The way it works is like you have this home board that represents like your dinosaur pens. The home board has a certain number of spaces on it. The spaces have pictures of resources on them. I think there's 2 resources, like food and plants to help you feed your dinosaurs, or meat and plants.
Meat and plants, yeah.
If you acquire dinosaurs and put them in a pen, it covers up the resource. So you're no longer generating those resources. And you now have to feed the dinosaurs that are in the pen.
It's really bad for your ability to score well in the game for not being able to feed these dinosaurs. If you can't feed a predator, they're going to eat one of your other dinosaurs if they escape. If a herbivore escapes, they destroy one of your fences, which are annoying well, I don't want to say annoying. They are a thing that you have to get in order to have multiple dinosaurs out, because 2 different colored dinosaurs can't be in the same area. They have to be penned in there. So you have to balance being able to get these public objectives, because you're aiming for those. Get your dinosaurs, get your fences, being able to feed them, and maximizing your points. So it's if you don't like games like Agricola and you don't like that huge pressure that you have in the game that you have to feed them every round, you have to make sure you allot for this. It wouldn't be the game for you, but I love it.
Well, I'm glad you enjoyed it. Like I said, it wasn't for us. In general, though, it's a good like worker placement style game, because that's effectively the primary mechanic in it. Like you send out your ranchers to do jobs, and the jobs allow you to collect dinosaurs or erect fences or collect research cards and deal with those objective cards. From the couple plays we got in with it before we decided to get rid of it, I don't remember completing more than like 2 objective cards in a game. So yeah, it was rough.
So if this is basically Tiny Epic Agricolasaur, does that mean you can feed your people to the dinosaurs?
If not, you should be able to.
That would be great.
There's your ranchers in there, so you can't.
Yeah, you're not running a theme park. The dinosaurs are simply running wild, and then you're capturing them, and then you're releasing them to a recipe fulfillment mechanic, basically.
Yeah, it's like what do they call those type of games? Viticulture is the same idea, where you get stuff and order fulfillment, or I don't remember what it's called, but yeah, that's what it's worker placement and that.
Before we get into the main topic, I want to, before I forget about this later on, James, now there's something that you played within the last couple of weeks since we haven't done a podcast review. I would like to get your opinion on this. So since we are about 3-4 weeks now past since Butler Game Day, you got to experience your first pure miniature game of Ruthless. So the scenario that I ran down there was the shootout at the OK Corral. What was your thoughts on that?
So as for a miniature game, I would imagine a game like Warhammer, where you basically have to blindly trust the other player knows what their character does, because of how many different like special options and stuff that can be on each unit. So I was very happy to play a very straightforward miniature game where you had like one ability on each player, maybe two different things, but they were very simple. They affected your dice rolls or whatnot and to do different things, and they had very interesting scenarios where you fight at the it's not the OK Corral. What did they? Well,
it was the OK Corral.
They called it the OK Corral, even though you didn't really fight at the OK Corral, right?
Yeah. It's history is odd.
Yeah, but anyway. It was really fun. It was cowboy shoot 'em up game. I had a lot of fun moving the miniatures and doing the different things. I really liked the fact that it was straightforward and I didn't have that fog of like, I don't know what's happening on the other side. I knew what they could do. I knew I could make a strategy, even though I did the worst thing during the whole game. It was a lot of fun. It was a great miniature game. And a shout out to Little Wars TV for providing a promotional copy to hand out at the Butler Game Day. It was really nice of them, and it is an amazing miniature game to pick out, and I believe they have extra scenarios online that are free.
Yeah, so the tinderbox that they still have available on their website, you can purchase, comes with, it's a linked 4-scenario set. They have a 5-scenario set that's free available online. The actual author of Ruthless has a scenario online, and then just over Christmas they released another scenario, so there's a lot of support for it out there.
And that tinderbox kit's really cool too. I liked it. It comes with a whole bunch of trees in it, which are really normally very, very expensive to pick up. They have a whole ton of them in there, and they have metal miniatures in there. I can't wait to paint.
Yeah, it's everything he needs in the box. It's fantastic. And then for future reference, so everyone knows the silly mistake that James did, he decided to run his vigilante into a building full of cowboys and got pummeled to death.
Yeah, I was like, I'm gonna go punch him, so I did. Didn't work out. It didn't work out. I thought I at least hit someone, and I didn't. I just got beaten. It was a bad idea, but funny. So let's go ahead and move on to our main topic, which is going to be mystery and or murder. So it could be both or one or the other. Games.
I just wanted to direct people's attention. We covered hidden movement as a mechanic in episode 73. And in this episode, I believe we also discussed deduction games. There may be some minimal overlap.
Yeah, I think there's going to be at least one that's an overlap, but it's not on my list, so we'll see.
So James' first one, I wrote down something on my paper. Let me see if I'm right.
I don't know. We're going to find out. So my game that I want to talk about first is Mysterium. Mysterium is a like quintessential perfect mystery game. One player plays as the ghost, and other players try to guess through the images that are like Dixit-style images of what happened. And I take it Evan. That was Evan's game.
No, that's not what I wrote.
Oh, okay, good. It's a really fun, really nice game. It plays very quickly. And the really cool thing is the person that's a ghost can't talk at all at any point. So it's always fun being that where I don't have to worry about talking. I just put out images that no one knows what's happening. And the thing that I think is completely obvious, they're like, oh, why is there a red pencil in there? I'm like, why do you care about the dang pencil? Great game.
I've had a chance to play this once as well as not the ghost, the other side. And I thought this was cool as well as an experience. I found it interesting that it was a co-op game, but it was also an asymmetrical game because the player playing the ghost wants the other players to guess properly. There's no hidden traitor in this game. Everyone's trying to guess each player basically gets their own like murder mystery to solve, but the only clues that they get are these like cards that represent the visions that the deceased is trying to send you.
The traitor in the game is the person that just goes off the wrong clue when you put a card down. That's the traitor because he convinces everyone else that you're trying to do something else.
Yeah, that was me during our play. I could not guess my murder to save my life, and then the ghost player was forced to give me a red herring clue. They drew a hand of cards. They're like, there's no good card for Dan. So they gave me a card that was completely irrelevant to my case. And I was sidetracked for another like 2 actions because of it. It was great. It was actually great.
Now that would be a game that I would highly recommend for like a family play game or like an event type of game that you can play in between like big ones, because it just gets everyone, you know, situated into like a group mode, which I think is really cool.
I want to say I'm really surprised by this because I played this once. I bounced really hard off of this one. I did not like this game. Big part may have been because I was playing it with complete strangers and I had no way of knowing how their minds work, and I couldn't figure out. Nobody seemed to be able to figure out what the ways that people were thinking and what the clues were going to be. So I thought that was a little weak, and I'm a little surprised you like it since you hate Dixit so much.
Yeah, Dixit's not the same game. It's very different, but
yeah.
And I don't like Dixit. Dixit's not a game. It's an activity of having your daughters mock you for 30 minutes. That's what Dixit is.
But it has some of the same problems of, it seems like you have to have kind of a sync with the people and have similar interest and ways of thinking.
I can see that. I could still see it working with strangers, but I could see what you're saying. And it is definitely a group dependent game.
I was gonna say, yeah. I mean, I played that one, and I do agree. It's one of those that the game is a more fun if you know the people that you're really there, because then you can kind of get a good feel of how things are going to be playing out.
So Dan, what's your first murder and or mystery game?
All right, well, I'm going to try to name games that no one else is going to name first. So my first game is going to be called Police Precinct. This is a previous own for me, and I think I've mentioned this once or twice somewhere on the channel. This game casts the player in the role of a police officer, and you're represented on the board by like a little like police car, and you have to move around between the various areas of the boards to perform various tasks. It's a co-op game, so like there's plenty of fires to put out. Gang tokens accumulate on certain spaces, and you can go to these spaces to clear off the gang tokens because there's too many accumulate, bad stuff happens. And then there are emergencies that appear at various locations throughout the town that you have to respond to within a certain length of time, or bad stuff happens. But the reason why I'm talking about it is because the core of the game is a murder mystery. There are 3 locations on the board, I believe. One representing the morgue, which is the body. Another one representing the evidence locker, which is the murder weapon. And I forget what the third one is. Probably the scene of the crime. But each of these places has a deck of cards. And when you go to these places and perform an action, you get to look at a certain number of cards, and then you can put any number on top or bottom of the deck. And then there's another action that allows you to basically reveal the top card. And if it's an evidence card, then the players keep it together. The ability to manipulate the decks is relevant because the game has the option to add a dirty cop / hidden traitor whose job is to bury the evidence and therefore prevent the people from solving the crime. If you can accumulate all the pieces of evidence, then like the murderer shows up on the board and you can apprehend him. If too much time passes, the murderer escapes from the table and everyone loses the game.
I'm going to say you're winning tonight for the worst cover on a board game ever. So
yeah, the artwork's not great in this game. As I said before,
hold that thought.
As I said before, this game is a previous own, so I would be remiss without saying why we got rid of it. We got rid of it because actually it was almost too random. We found that the setup made the game either too easy or too hard, and it almost never hit that sweet middle spot.
We're 2 for 2 so far. This is another game I bounced off real hard. I didn't enjoy this game very much. Part of the problem, though, was I got a used copy. It had like all sorts of expansions and promo stuff, and it was pretty hard to separate some of that out. And there was one of the promo items in particular, it just seemed like anytime that came up, it's like we lost. And at one point, it's like after we played it a few times, that came up and we just said, no, we're done.
Yeah, I did play the retail copy, so I didn't have access to any Kickstarter bonuses or promos. I do remember seeing a promo on Board Game Geek and thinking to myself, well, I don't never want to deal with that. It was like some kind of bomb threat.
Yeah, I think that was the one. It just made it really hard.
So, Evan, what's your game?
So the first one I'm going to talk about here is actually very similar to the one that James talked about. What I have is Deception, Murder in Hong Kong. So this game, it's a social deduction game where everyone is a police officer in the police force in Hong Kong, and one of the people there is a murderer. So everyone has to figure out who the murderer is and how they did it and what the key piece of evidence is in order to win. So the person that's murderer will pick from a row of cards they have. There's 2 rows in front of everybody, and they have to pick a method of murder and then the key piece of evidence. And they're two different color cards. Everyone has them in front of them. Like I said, one person at the table is a forensic scientist. They're the only person that will know what combination there is, and they will have a set of boards in front of them, and they'll have various things on there, such as like time of murder or location or general feeling of murder. And they can't talk through the entire game, but they can, on those boards, there's 5 different selections that they can make. So they put a little bullet token on there and kind of steer everybody through open discussion without saying anything to talk it through and try and figure out who is a murderer and how and why they did it. It's really fun, very much into the same of Mysterium. If you have a good group of people that you can kind of understand how people think and know how they're going to work together to figure things out, the game is an absolute fun game to play. You can play multiple sessions in 20-30 minutes. My favorite part is everyone sitting around goes, wow, the forensic scientist, that's really easy. I don't know why you had such a hard time. Then they'll take over that and go, crap, this is extremely hard. I don't know what to do. Absolutely love playing the game anytime I get a chance to play it.
I'd like any type of game that you can just kill someone with underwear. But I went on the website, Board Game Geek, and I looked it up, and it's the most hilarious one. I didn't remember the, I know it's in there, but the radioactive. So you can kill someone with radiation. You can kill someone with radioactive underwear. Awesome.
My favorite one that we've ever done was the motive was cake, and the murder weapon was a sniper rifle. So it was a very elaborate, you stole my last piece of cake, so I'm going to take you out kind of scenario. That really worked out really well.
You don't mess with cake in a break room.
That's right. I got a couple of the promos in there, so I'm sure you would be a fan of it. One of the promos was Canadian items. So
maple syrup all the way. And I don't know how you kill someone with a maple leaf, but I'm pretty sure I'll figure it out. So Nathan, what is your murder and or mystery game?
I'll start off with the one that James is probably expecting me to talk about, which is Letters from Whitechapel. Okay, so I have talked about this in the Hidden Movement game. It is a really, really solid Hidden Movement game. It is definitely my favorite that I've played. And in Letters from Whitechapel, one person plays as Jack the Ripper, who has to go around, and each night he has to kill a lady of the night. Second night he kills another one. Third night he has to kill 2, and then he has to get back to his hideout. And he moves around the city on this map this is gridded map with numbers and dots. He's moving along the numbers, and then you have the other team of 4 detectives trying to go and encircle Jack the Ripper and find out where he is, or they can find out where his hideout is and try to keep him from getting to his hideout before the night is over. And the hideout stays at the same place at each night. So if you kind of get some ideas of where that hideout is on the first night, it'll help you on the second night. It is pretty much just a straightforward Hidden Movement game. It is a nice puzzle where you have to look at the possible routes. You have to search around and find places where he has been at some point in the game, because you can only ask, oh, have you been there? Or you can say, I'm arresting here. Are you there right now? So you generally know places where he's been at some point. You don't know at what point in the game he was there. So you're just trying to piece it together, make a path in your mind using the few points you do know.
Yeah, that's one game I still haven't played and want to play. But
Ditto.
I will name one of the best murder mystery game ever created, bar none. And that is, of course, Mansions of Madness. There's multiple episodes in Mansions of Madness where you play a murder mystery. And what makes it better than having a boring murder mystery is Cthulhu. So if you get bored of doing the murder mystery, which it happens very quickly, you have to fight demons and monsters and all Cthulhu-ish stuff. Really, really fun, really great game. Each of the scenarios gets a little different each time you play it, and they can get pretty different when you get more of the expansions and stuff into the game. There's a couple really cool ones that are on the ship where you end up having a trade or two. So you have to actually figure out which of the players in the game is the murderer, which is a lot of fun. And there are some just like point blank, just stereotypical, hey, we're at a dinner party murder, lights go out, someone died, what the heck. But Mansions of Madness, awesome app-driven Cthulhu-based game. I would only ever play the second edition because it's app-based and the first edition's not, but that's mine.
I debated talking about this one first just to steal it from you, but I figured I'd let you have it.
Yeah, I thought someone would do Mysterium, so I gotta do Mysterium.
Mansion of Madness is what I wrote down on my paper.
Both Mysterium and Mansions of Madness were on my short list. So I'm not going to talk about either one of those games.
What game are you going to talk about, Dan?
I will briefly mention First Class. Now, First Class isn't really a murder mystery game in and of itself. It's a piece. It can be a piece of the game. So First Class is an engine building card game about trains, more or less, where you're building these trains and you're adding cars to the trains and you're upgrading those cars so they're worth more points and and you're building routes and getting bonuses that way. You can build your engine a couple different ways in this game. It comes with 5, I think, modules out of the base game box, and one of the 5 modules is the Murder on Orient Express, because why not in the train game, right? So if you're playing this module, it adds a couple of cards and like a few mechanics to the base experience. So the key to it is that there's these face down tokens called suspicion tokens, and there are cards that you can draft or otherwise use that allow you to pick up those cards. The cards that give you suspicion tokens are usually slightly better than normal, and then there are cards that allow you to get rid of suspicion tokens by giving them other players or simply removing them from the game entirely. Those cards are a little bit worse than normal. At the end of the game, the player with the most suspicion tokens suffers a penalty. But at the beginning of the game, one of the players is randomly assigned the role of the murderer. And there's also like this guessing game where, if the murderer is outed at the end of the game, they automatically lose. If they convince the other players that somebody that's not them is the murderer, they get an extra like 10 points. It's very swingy, but it involves a murder and a mystery, and it's themed on the Orient Express. So I thought I'd mention.
So Evan, what's yours?
All right. So the next one I'm going to talk about is Detective City of Angels by Van Ryder Games. So if you have ever watched a film noir movie, if you have ever played the video game Loa Noir, you have played this game. So it is a 1920s, 1930s era detective game where you are a detective in Los Angeles solving a bunch of different crimes. So in the game, I think the base game has about 12-ish cases in there. So you'll open up the first case book and you'll be given the case to solve and you'll go through it. What's really cool about the game is it can play up to 1 to 5 people. It plays best around 3 because one person can play what's called the chisel and actually runs almost like a DM and will answer the questions that the detectives will have. So the detectives will get clues that will go through the game, and the clues will direct them. You can go, you'll talk to Curly Bill and he'll either send you to the docks or the airport, and you'll talk to somebody there. They'll have some predetermined answers to the questions that detectives will need to ask, and it'll give you a truth or a lie, and you can give it either one of those to the detectives, and they have to figure out, are you telling the truth or are you telling a lie? And they've got some powers that can help decipher that. And the game is really, really fun. I've only got to play it a couple of times, but it really hits murder, mystery, detective, all across the board.
So mine, I'm actually going to talk about a lot of games. In fact, I'm going to be talking about 2 whole series of games. So I want to talk about basically escape room games, particularly the unlock and the exit games. These are very small games, and that's why I kind of lump them together. They're usually pretty cheap. They are like under $10 or under a lot of times. But all of these games, occasionally they involve murders. Most of them, they always involve mystery and puzzles. And it's basically you're trapped somewhere. You have to solve these puzzles or cryptids or whatever, various types of puzzles to get to the next part of the room and eventually get out of the room. And I kind of want to compare the two, and that's why I want to talk about them together, because they do definitely cater to different types of gamers. I feel a lot like the Exit series caters a lot to people who are into escape rooms and trying to get into board games, because it does rely on a lot of the puzzles you would find in escape rooms a lot more. It also does involve often the actual box, which a lot of gamers, when they open a game, they just put the box aside and never see it again. So that is kind of a hard concept for a lot of gamers. It's like, every element, including the box and the rule book, could be important in this game. It does also involve some destruction often, so that can be a little uncomfortable for some people. It also means they're single play games. That is why I personally prefer the Unlock series, which definitely seems to be more coming from board gamers interested in trying to find out what escape rooms are like. And this relies on a card system and an app. And the app basically is there to tell you when you get the puzzles correct. So you're going through the puzzles, you're reading these cards, you're solving it. The app will tell you, yes, you got it correct, go to this card, or pick out these cards and then look at the next puzzle. Both systems give you hints, and they also have difficulty levels. So if you're first time doing any escape room style game, you definitely want to start on the easy level, especially on the exit games. And then as you play more, you'll learn the way of thinking that's involved, and the out of the box elements. And there's occasionally, unfortunately, there's outside knowledge that acquired that's just common in escape rooms. So they assume if you played an escape room, you probably know this trope that's common. But for the most part, they avoid that, and they're very strong games.
I did have a couple. I like the unlock ones better, so I agree with that. I did have one unlock game where you had to figure out a clue from a rotary phone, and oh my gosh, I was the only one that knew how to do a rotary phone, and I think that would be lost on a lot of people.
Are you dating yourself there, James, by a little bit?
Yes, I'm 20. I am lying.
Ish.
20. I've been 20 for 40 or for 24. 20. Never mind. We're not talking about it. All right. So my next game is the last game that I actually like that's on my list, and that is Outfoxed. Now, Outfoxed is not a game for older gamers. It is a game to play with kids. It's 5+, and basically it's like it's a mini deduction game that's really well done for children, where they're trying to figure out basically the clues to frame the fox who is trying to skip town for stealing pie. And it's really cool in how you go through the game and they're going to the different locations and flipping them over and trying to deduce what they need, the clues they need to find. Really good game, a lot of fun, great for kids. I know Nathan's played it at least once with, I think, my kid.
Yeah, I played it once, and it basically is kind of a guess who element. So you're looking, oh, does this person have a hat? Or does this person have a cane? And then you have to kind of look closely at the images to see, because sometimes they hide it a little bit, make it less obvious.
Yeah, it's all little objects. Good game. All right, Dan. So what's your next murder/mystery game?
All right. This is my last one too, actually. Unless we stretch it. I could get one more in here if we stretch it.
Oh, I have two that I don't like that I'll talk about.
So I need everyone to actually look this game up because I'm going to go on a rant. This game is called The Name of the Rose. Just take a look at this game. So this game has got several things wrong with it. The first thing that's most wrong with it is that it's an IP game. The IP is actually a book. The game is somewhat dated because it's from like 2008. Not that that isn't a modern board game, but it's not as new. At least it's got a good pedigree, right? Stephen Feld apparently is the designer. But I did research into this game. I've never actually played it, but I really, really, really want to. So in this game, there are several like pawn style movers. There's 2 monks that represent like the investigators, and then there's 6 colored monks that represent all of the different suspects. Now, despite how many players actually sit down to play this game, all 6 colored monks are in the game and can be manipulated by the players that are playing the game. And by manipulating the monks to different areas of the monastery, you can have them gain or lose suspicion. There's been a murder at the monastery, and suspicion is a great thing because the person the most suspicion loses the game immediately, and everyone else like loses points based on where they are on the suspicion track at the end of the game. And it's got another great deduction mechanic to it because as the game progresses, players have colored tokens that they have to reveal. So at various stages in the game, each player is one of the colored movers. And at various stages of the game, you have to reveal which colored movers you are not. You could get to a point where trying to push suspicion on certain other colored movers and you're accidentally screwing over somebody else because you don't know that's them. And you might pick a colored mover that's not you to bluff that is actually you and accidentally help somebody else. But this, my friends, looks like a great game that needs to be re-implemented with a different IP and possibly a like rules update. The IP that they're actually using on this game is a movie based on a book because the movie, one of the main characters was Sean Connery.
Have you seen the movie?
I haven't seen the movie.
I have a odd story about this movie because I've watched this. It's a very good movie. We're getting off topic, but whatever. I've actually been to the castle where it was filmed for the bulk of it, but it was really off-putting when I watched the movie because they go into another room. It's like in my head, it's like that's not there. They go outside and they're in a different country. They filmed the outside in the different countries. Like it was really confusing. It's like they're just teleporting around. As far as like what I know in real geography, I know it's like, okay, you expect that in fiction. That's normal, but it's like because I have that connection to the place that they're actually physically in and that knowledge of the place, it was distracting.
Yeah, I definitely see that. So, Evan, what's your next murder/mystery game?
So what I got is a game that was actually on my top 10 trail at House on the Hill. So more into the mystery. So those of you that aren't familiar with it, you and everyone else is playing at the table. You enter this mansion on top of the hill and you start exploring through the house. Every time you play the game, all the rooms are different. Everything's randomly generated as you go through it, and you're going to find artifacts as you go through it. And the more that you find, you'll start rolling dice, and eventually you'll trigger what's called the haunt, which is the second part of the game, where you'll find that somebody has betrayed the party and hijinks will ensue. And that's where you don't know if you're shrunken, have to escape the house because giant cats are attacking you, or aliens are attacking, or there might be a dragon. Could be any of those. And there's 50 different scenarios into the core book, and then the expansion adds 50 more. And we've talked about this game a couple different times ever since I've been on here, so I don't think I need to go too far into it.
Yeah, it's the inferior Mansions of Madness.
If you would ever invite me over to play Mansions of Madness, I mean, I could give an honest opinion, but
it's going to happen.
You keep saying that, but yet here I am, Mansion of Madnessless.
Since Peter's not here, on his behalf, I'll say good choice.
Peter will be appreciative of that.
Good, I'm the editor. Nathan?
Oh, it's me again. Okay. My next choice is somewhat a mystery, not much of a murder, so kind of stretching. Trying to think if there is any. Sure, there's a murder at some point in this game, at least in one of the parts of this game. But that's Time Stories. Time Stories is a game that at this point is kind of getting old. It's not a game that you can really easily replay unless it's been a while, and I think it's probably been long enough I could probably replay it again. But it's basically you're going around the map several times, and each time you're learning more information, learning the best route to get the end, and learning what the puzzles and what items you need to finally solve the mission. Sometimes it has a lot of puzzle elements because there's a number of different scenarios. Sometimes it'll be puzzle heavy. Sometimes it's actually somewhat combat heavy. Sometimes it's story heavy. But the base game is definitely puzzle heavy, and you're just trying to solve puzzles and kind of maze your way through the scenario. It's a very excellent game that is unfortunately not a game you can play many times.
Yeah, I can see that. So my last two games, I'll just do real quick. I don't like either of them. And I'll go from the one that I like the least to the one I like little less than least for the other one. Yeah, we're going to go with that. So my first one is Chronicles of Crime, which is a cooperative crime investigation game where you're mixing with the app. And it does have some air quotes virtual reality in it. Air quotes, yes. This game is fine on the surface, but it's super fiddly and it's really hard it's like as a solo game, sure. But when you get with other players and stuff, it really just ends up just to be a pain. And you're dealing with time and moving stuff around and scanning things. It's just so fiddly, and didn't really enjoy it. Played a couple times and just never enjoyed it. So that was Chronicles of Crime. I think Nathan had the same experience with the game because I got it from him.
Yeah, absolutely. I did not enjoy this so much, and part of the problem was you're expected to pass his phone around, but some of my other players aren't really comfortable with technology so much, and they didn't want to have anything to do with the phone. So it's like I end up doing all the phone, and the phone is the bulk of the game.
Yeah, then it's just weird. It just and like a lot of times you waste a lot of time being like, hey, check this out too. You have to move it this way to see the too much, too fiddly. The other one, which I dislike, but I dislike less than Munchkin, is Dan knows what game I'm talking about. That's Kill Dr. Lucky. Kill Dr. Lucky is definitely like a Munchkin-esque game, but better. And the reason why I say it's better is you're still using cards to prevent another player from killing Dr. Lucky. That's still how the game works. It's like the same idea of getting to 10 points in Munchkin, where the other players have these cards that can tank a player, but eventually some people run out of those cards, and the person that tries at that time wins. But what's nice about Kill Dr. Lucky is every time you try to kill Dr. Lucky, you get a bonus, like a +1, to the next time you attempt. So the more chances you take a pot shot at him, the easier it is for you the next one. So it's a little better. It still suffers from that same problem, I think. And I could definitely see where a lot of people would definitely really enjoy this game. So you have to understand that I don't like Munchkin. If you like Munchkin and you just want a little more, like a tiny bit more, I know it's not exactly the same game. It's just that everyone needs to tank the other player and they run out of cards thing. Kill Dr. Lucky is a fine game for a lot of players. It's not for me. I don't like it. I know Dan's played it a bit. What were your thoughts on it, Dan?
I, in general, liked it. It's a fun experience with a big group for sure, but it's definitely got that whole... I agree with you that there's a problem with like the arc of the game, right? Not everyone has an opportunity to kill Dr. Lucky every single turn, obviously, because you have to be alone in Dr. Lucky in a room where nobody has line of sight to you in order to make an attempt on him. So it takes a certain amount of manipulation in order for you to make an attempt. Like you said, every time you make an attempt, it's everybody else's cards in hand are effectively the resource that they can use to stop you, because there's two kinds of cards in the game: weapon cards and like luck cards. And you can play weapon cards in order to buff your attempt to kill Dr. Lucky, or you could play luck cards to make Dr. Lucky dodge his imminent doom. Eventually those luck cards run out, because the conditions under which you draw a card, a single card, is that you are in a room alone and nobody has line of sight to you, because that's like representing that you're in a spot where you can escape notice and therefore plot by picking up a new weapon, for example.
Yeah, it gets a little frustrating too, but if you don't take the game too seriously and you're just there to have fun, I think it can work out.
Yeah, like the whole game is just like a pacing puzzle.
Yeah.
You have to pace yourself to be the right person at the right time. And if you can make an attempt early just to get the bonus and to get rid of a couple cards, but you really need to be like, I mean, it depends on how big the group is as to who the person that kills Dr. Lucky is actually going to be. But, you know, it's somewhere between the third to sixth attempt in my experience.
Yeah, it sounds about right.
I got two left here. So both are smaller, so I'll put them together here. I'll go with the one that I like, and then I'll go the one that I did not like. So the one that I like is Choose Your Own Adventure, House of Danger. So I've actually been playing this game with my wife recently. It is a lot of fun. The entire premise of the game is, if you're into the older generation that has gray hair now, that would be me, and you've ever picked up those white Choose Your Own Adventure books, that is the game. The game is broken up into 5 chapters. Everything's sealed off for each chapter. You just follow along with the cards and it will tell you exactly what to do. There's not much to it. It's written very much like the books. You can get through a chapter in like 10 minutes. It's a good, not super thinky game. The other game that I did not like, and I think this is going to dethrone Dan's worst artwork game, it is called Masterpiece Mystery, Motive for Murder. So found this game at a Barnes & Noble on the 50% off table, and I understand why. So you are a detective at this swanky party, and someone has found a dead body. So everyone is holding a bunch of tiles which represents all the family members that are at the party. And once you deal those out, there's a couple tiles that are left. You'd flip over the top one. That's a dead body that's found. So along the tiles on each side is a couple colored arrows and some numbers, and they're associated in a couple different spots there. So the entire game is playing around that tile, all the relatives to that dead body, and you have to match up the colors and the lines. And the idea is you need to get from one color to another color to the dead body and get the highest combination of number thereof. It is labeled as a murder mystery game. It is basically, can you tell your colors and add up the highest numbers? There's literally no detective work at all into this game. There's a little description about each person on there. The game is good if you're going to write a murder mystery book, because you can just take the little descriptions off of the tiles and then use that as your plot for that. But yeah, the game's kind of terrible.
Just an FYI, if you're trying to look this up, it's listed as Mystery Motive for Murder. The masterpiece is on the cover, but it's kind of not technically part of the title, I guess.
Yeah, you won, Evan.
Yeah. I don't know why it's still in the collection. It's still over there, but it's bad.
I mean, I've seen worse, but not much.
I was simply admitting that Evan did, in fact, find a game with worse art. I am willing to admit that this is a worse game than Police Precinct, because Police Precinct was at least okay some of the time.
Some of the things were okay in it from the pictures I saw. So, Nathan, you had one last one?
Yeah, and the art on this one, meh. That's Sherlock Holmes Consulting Detective, specifically Jack the Ripper West End Adventures. Now, there's a caveat to this. I've only played the first scenario, and a lot of the things I've read or heard have said that it's much better when you get to the Jack the Ripper sections of the scenarios, but you have to play the first couple scenarios to learn how to play first if you've never played these before, and I couldn't get through the first couple scenarios. The main thing is with this game is you're giving a plethora of information. You're giving, every day you play, you get a newspaper with all sorts of stories on it. So this double-sided page, large page with probably like 20 different stories, and then you're given information about the case, a story and a background of what's going on. And there's so much information that you have to pick through and find out what's important. And then you're supposed to go around town and ask people questions, and you draw cards to determine how they answer. But the game doesn't do as well if you don't do it things in the order it's expecting. Some of the times things the answers to the question expected, you already know something, so it didn't always sequentially fall in place. Then at the end, you're given a result. You're saying, this is what actually happened. How close did you get to this? This is how many actions Sherlock Holmes had to do to get to that point. This is all the things he went. And it was like, okay, that makes sense, but it didn't feel like, okay, that is absolutely the answer. There was a few things like his first action was, I can't remember exactly what it was, but it's like, I couldn't understand, didn't get why that would necessarily be his first action, the first place you would go to ask questions. So there were some elements I could see where certain types of people would enjoy this, where they're basically people who are really into mysteries and really into puzzle solving and especially text heavy puzzle solving might enjoy this. And then if they don't mind feeling like an idiot at the end when Sherlock Holmes does so much better than you. But that's Sherlock Holmes Consulting Detective.
Yeah, I believe I have that on a shelf somewhere.
Yeah, I think I passed it to you.
Yeah.
All right, congratulations. We're going to go to phase 2 without mentioning Clue.
You just did. Good job, Dan. Good job.
We all lost.
All right, Nathan.
All right, what evil lurks in the hearts of men? Nathan apparently knows. Go for it.
Okay, let me pull up my script real quick.
Oh, someone's drinking poison tonight.
We're going to play a little game here, and it's going to be a one versus many game. It's going to be me versus all of you. And I have a number of clips that detail your demise. And you have to, based on those clips I'm going to play, figure out what game you died in. And guys can talk about it afterwards. If you give up, can't figure out what it is, you fail and one of you dies. But you're not out of the game. You're now a ghost and you can still continue to talk. But if all of you are dead, then you've lost. I have won.
All right, let's do this.
Okay, so I'm going to start on the relatively easy, and hopefully you can hear this clearly. Gling, gling, gling. Sword and shield collide. An epic battle among men and monsters. Your vessel would give you aid, but is busy dealing with a fearsome serpent. Somehow you defeat the rival clan and hold your ground. But the ground begins to sink below the shoreline. Volcanoes erupt and ocean swells. It's over. Did you drown or get immolated? You're not sure. But it hardly matters now. For now, you feast with the gods.
So who do you want? Who are you trying to kill with this clip? Or is it just we collaboratively work?
You collaboratively can talk. What game do you think one of you just died in? If you
Blood
get it
Rage?
right, you've survived.
I don't think it's Blood Rage.
No, it definitely has something to do with like Escape from Atlantis comes to mind, but there's no like monsters or anything in it. There's
or Vikings.
Or Vikings. There's sharks and stuff in that, but there's no Vikings. What has sinking? Vikings.
I'm not going to say you don't necessarily have to just make one guess. It's just if you can't get it at all, you die.
So we got 3 guesses.
I'm kidding.
James is obviously the first one to go.
So
I'm going to guess Champions of Midgar. That is my guess.
Nope.
Yeah, I don't think
I think you're both wrong, and I think it is going to be Blood Rage.
It is.
Oh, okay, good. Evan saved us. Good.
So I did look up on this description of Ragnarok, and it was the idea of the earth sinking below the oceans and all the volcanoes erupting. Although the whole point of going to Valhalla is actually to prevent Ragnarok, so it's kind of a little backwards there in the actual game, but it is what it is. So you've escaped that possible death. Let's us continue to the next one.
Yay, more death.
You hammer the last plank into place, boarding up the window. Doesn't look sturdy, but it'll hold for a time. You called in the town meeting, where they apportion the supplies. Okay, folks, we need foodstuffs. Fork them over. The de facto mayor orders. Forrest turns in a bag, as does Thomas. When you turn in yours, however, you could have sworn Forrest gave you a wily eye. The food is counted, and it's short. Forrest turns on you. You're not pulling your weight. Banish! 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 The group all turn on you. You're pushed out the doors into the ravaged lands. This is the last sound you hear.
Dead winner.
Yeah, you guys got it really quick.
Yeah,
That one was too easy.
It's Dead of Winter, yeah.
Wait, has Evan played Dead of Winter yet?
I used to own a copy.
Okay, I was going to say, for shame! Dead of Winter, I love that game.
Okay. It still shouldn't be too hard. It's going to get a little harder, but let's try this one.
You pace in your cabin. The floorboards are straining. The recent upgrades have increased the load. The mayor's errands are going smoothly, but you want more. You want adventure, glory, and more than anything, treasure. The sailor's song is cut short by the sight in the water. You may get that adventure you wanted, and then some. A tentacle thrashes through the mast, crashing it down nearly on top of you. A second tentacle catches you and pulls you clean off the ship. As you are pulled to the depths, your last thoughts are that you will never find your family. Another ring in your pocket you never got to give.
I gotta say, shiver me timbers.
Yeah.
Yes.
Shiver me timbers.
Okay.
Awesome game.
I did keep it with like well-known games and popular games for the most part. So, because I didn't know what all of you played. Let's try this
You
one.
enter the castle, moving from room to room. Suddenly, it's very cold. The way is blocked. You don't have a key to go this way, or enough weapons to go that way. You work your way down, now underground. Ding, ding, ding. Oh dear. The depths reverberate, and suddenly the beast is on you. Somehow you escape, wounded but alive. However, others have made it out of the castle. Time is running out. Oh no. It's too late. You are trapped down here, in the dark, with an angry monster. You turn to face the sound as eyes peer out from the dark. It hails deeply, and a moment later you are engulfed in its flames.
Mansions of Madness?
Nope.
Okay, that was mine.
I mean, it sounds kind of like a fantasy adventure. Unfortunately, there's a lot of like fantasy adventure board games. I'm just gonna go with Descent here. Was it Descent?
Nope.
That was going to be my guess, too.
There's gonna be a monster in it. So it's gonna be a monster-related, tangentially related game. It has to do with a castle.
Evan, you're our lifeline. Yeah. There's a castle. There's a castle.
I don't know. I'm not sure.
Could it be Gloomhaven?
Nope. I think I'm getting ready to roll.
Dark Tower, I'll just throw something out.
No. Let's see what we get. Oh, James has just died. You
no!
died.
So we win?
James died to the Dragon in Clank.
The Dragon in Clank.
Okay,
Wow.
okay, I see that.
I thought the castle might throw you off because, yes, you do start in the castle and then go underground.
Yeah, that makes sense. For shame.
I always forget to
But
start in the
yeah,
castle on that.
other people have already left, but you've become trapped. Makes sense now, actually.
So we have lost one, but you can still participate as a ghost.
Ooh.
Okay, and we're getting
You can only
a
knock.
little harder.
Oh, geez, James can still participate as a ghost. Will you ever shut up?
No!
Your small group is stuck here, but perhaps not forever. You're tired and hungry, and your shelter is a joke, barely keeps out the rain. But you have to keep collecting. You didn't see the bee when it stung you, but you certainly felt it. No matter. More wood, and then just maybe we will be saved. Enough. We need food. You go out hunting and catch a boar, receiving only nicks and scrapes. However, that night, something is drawn in by the smell of fresh meat. You try to run, but your legs tense up where the bee stung you, and the jaguar pounces.
Robinson Crusoe.
Yep.
Yep, this is Robin Crusoe, Cursed Island.
See, the ghost can do it.
Okay. Oh, this one should be pretty easy.
North, 30 degrees. Load the torpedoes. Quiet, they're nearby. Mines, full stop.
Captain Sonar.
Captain Sonar.
Yeah,
Yep.
Evan.
Okay. I think that's the last easy one. I've only killed James. I'm happy with that, but I want to see if I can kill the others.
Hey.
Let's go for this one.
I would have expected us to have already gone to medium by now. That we've gone through what, like 6 of them?
How many have we gone through so far? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yes, you've gone through 6. There's only a couple more.
Enough to kill Dan.
Okay. This one. Hopefully you actually all know this.
As you head home via Appia, you catch the fearful glances of other travelers, rumors of noxious gases, unstable earth, even signs of smoke. Few know where they are going, just away. You get home to find relatives there, hoping to stay until this passes. But it will not pass. Not long after, the sky is black. What looks like a solid cloud of rock is headed this way. Fear takes hold, and people are running every which way. You choose to run, but a river of fire blocks the town exit. You turn to find another wall behind you. Left, right, on all sides. The soot comes down from the sky, choking and burning the air. One breath, and it's done.
I know this one, I think.
Yeah, this is the Vesuvius game. I forget what it's called.
Pompeii.
Right? Pompeii. Yeah.
It's not the full title.
1 second.
Hey, no cheating.
Oh, well, that's super easy. No, wait. Is it? It's Pompeii.
Yeah, okay, I'll give it to you. It's the downfall of Pompeii. Is
Yeah.
the full title.
Yeah, we won't complain if we win this one.
Okay.
We've already won.
It's true. We've already won. James is dead. I feel like we can end it right now.
Thanks everyone for listening.
Here's the next one.
Usually your accountant will take care of stashing the cash. But today you're at your accountant's office, taking care of it yourself. Next, you're headed over to the barber on Wall Street to see what's going down. And sometimes you get a score. But something's not right. If you're not careful, you may end up in the Hudson like those thugs last week. Word is the guy got at a gun dealer in Midtown trying to score some heat. Not you, though. You're untouchable. It'd be all-out war among the families, and nobody wants that. You step out of the office. From the corner of your eye, you spot a car starting to crawl. Glint of iron from the backseat, and pop, pop.
Eric M. Lang. Eric M. Lang. Eric
Yeah,
M. Lang.
is this The Godfather?
It is.
Corleone's Empire? is the
First
full title?
mention, Eric M. Lang. Thank you, Nathan. Greatest designer
hello?
ever.
Hello, we talked about Blood Rage too. That was one of them.
Oh, that's true. Yes, he's that good of a designer. Although I don't know. I think that the Godfather one, I like it. But have you been playing it recently, there, Dan?
I don't think I've gotten to the table recently, but it's still in my collection. I'm not getting rid of
Yeah.
it. It's very solid.
It's a good game. I don't know if it's one of his greatest games, but it's definitely a good game.
Side
Yeah,
note, I just randomly came across that he did a Warhammer Skirmish game.
Yeah.
I did not realize that.
He also did Dice Masters and like all sorts of different type of one. He made like a train game that was pretty cool, that where you roll the dice and it does different routes and stuff.
Have one left, so you guys win no matter what.
Quietly whisper to yourself, okay, let's think this through. I want to get to the front, but so does everyone else. I could settle for the bits and bobs around me, but is it enough? No, it's worth the risk. I'll go up top and move forward. Then I'll climb down before anyone catches me up there. I can gather up some loot while I collect my thoughts and plan the next step. Okay, you move up, but someone's already there. There goes my plans, you think, as they level the revolver at you. You slump on the roof of the caboose, and all fades as you clasp your single bag of coins. The suitcase so far from reach.
So I have two different games this could be. Two different
think-
ones.
I think Dan has this one.
Dan has it. I'm pretty sure.
I see. I don't remember the name of the game. Is it Colt Express?
Yeah,
Is that the one where you move
See-
around and hop on top of the cars? And
I was
Yep.
thinking Colt Express or Wasteland Delivery Service, but Colt Express, yeah.
yeah, I know.
There was
Okay.
two key words that I know. Dan caught at least one of them, was the caboose and suitcase.
Yeah.
See, I don't know anything about the suitcase and its role in that game. I
It's
just
the
know that
higher
it happens.
monetary amount.
I just know that it happens on a train, and
Yeah.
it sounded like a train. And you said revolver, which I associate with the Old West. So
Colt Express, I have it back there. It belongs to one of my daughters. It's a pretty fun game. It's definitely a 3D game.
Oh,
all right,
you
that
guys
was
won.
our nonsense.
Only James died.
So which means we totally won.
Boo!
Thank you.
Double winners for us.
Double winners for us. Thank you, everyone, for listening. Thank you, Nathan, for the nonsense. Come back. Listen to us the next time. Tabletop Gaming Guild.
Thank you for listening. If you have any feedback for us, feel free to visit us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, or Board Game Geek Guild 2989, or our website at tabletopgamingguild.com. Don't forget to like, follow, and or subscribe. Tabletop Gaming Guild is a product of Tabletop Gaming Guild LLC. All rights reserved.